DreAllDay.com. Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com, balloverseas.com. This is a general question that I've gotten asked many times, and I mean, those of y'all who've been following me, you know, I like to make sure I give y'all all the details so that there is no confusion and there are no questions left unanswered. And this question is, Dre, how do I play overseas after playing college basketball? Now, I know some of you didn't play college ball. You want to know how you can get on. I've already made a video about that, and if I haven't answered enough of those questions, I'll probably make another one in the future. So I'm gonna take care of y'all. But this video is for those who did play college ball, or you are playing college right now, or maybe you're about to play college and you want to plan ahead, 4 years ahead, how you could play overseas, or maybe less, how you could play ball overseas after college. Well, I want you to understand that playing ball overseas after college is pretty much the same process as somebody who didn't go to college. There are pretty much two ways you could get on. One is you can have an agent that you have signed with to represent you. That agent goes and finds a team. The agent is the middleman, right? Finds a team that is interested in you. They help broker the deal. They help negotiate the contract, make sure all the paperwork's right. You sign the contract. The team pays you to be a player on the team. The agent gets paid by the overseas team. Remember that you don't pay agents. The agents get paid by the team. And there you go. You're playing professional basketball overseas. Done. Another way is, let's say maybe you don't have an agent yet, or maybe you do, but you don't have any teams that's really ready to sign you yet. What you can do is actually the same process that I just explained, but maybe you might have to wait a little bit. And I know some agents that I've talked to, and they say this, like sometimes they sign players and they let them know, look, I can't guarantee you a deal. No agent's gonna guarantee you a contract. Because if an agent can guarantee you a contract, then I don't know, they kind of wouldn't be an agent. They basically would be a team. But the agent will say to a player, look, I can't guarantee you a deal, but I guarantee you that I'm going to work for you. I'm going to be putting your name out there, but it might not happen immediately. You might not get a contract for, it might be 5 months before you get a deal. You might not get a contract till the midway point of the season. So at the beginning of the year, you might still be at home without a contract, but you just got to trust me that I'm working and that we're going to find the right opportunity for you. So you might get a deal that way, again, working with an agent. Another way, let's say maybe you have an agent or you don't, but you don't have a team ready to sign you and you feel like maybe you need to bolster your resume a little bit. So what you would do is the same thing that any player would do, whether, again, this could be a player coming from the D1, D2, D3, JUCO, whatever level, NAIA, whatever level. You can go to an exposure camp and play there and show that you can do your thing against other players who are already pro, maybe other players who are maybe played at a higher level at college than you. Maybe you're playing against people that you've already proven yourself against, but now you're being watched by people who actually had the power to sign you to a pro contract instead of being watched by, you know, the local boosters at your college or the students who are the fans of the colleges you were playing against. Because if you really think about it, let's say you're coming from a D3 or a D2 or even a D1, whatever level of D1. You did your thing in college, right? And you averaged 18, 20 points, 15 points, 10 rebounds, whatever you were doing. You had some good games. You got some good highlights from what you did in college, but maybe nobody who was in the overseas game saw you play. Maybe nobody from overseas was paying attention to the league that you play in. Maybe nobody from the overseas world maybe they were looking around, but they never looked at any games that you were playing. They just didn't see you for whatever reason. Y'all got to remember, it's hundreds, thousands of college basketball teams out there, and there are a lot of overseas teams, but not only do they have to do their own job of running their own teams in their country, wherever they're at, whenever they do take a look at college basketball players that they might scout for the future, they can't look at every college, they can't watch every game, so there's a good chance you could play 4 years of college ball and do well and never have been seen not one time by any overseas person in all the games that you play. You play 100 college games and no overseas person ever saw not one of your games simply because there's too many college players out there. So it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you if you've never been seen. So you could go, let's say you played at a D2 and you made all conference at your D2 league, and that's a pretty good accomplishment, right? But nobody overseas is ready to sign you. Nobody's calling you. Maybe you have an agent, maybe you don't, but the phone ain't ringing. So what do? You can go to an exposure camp where you're going to be playing against players who are pretty much at the same level of the guys or girls who you was already doing your thing against for the last 4 years. You averaged 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists in college for 4 years. Now you go to an exposure camp and you show that you're that type of player, but you do it for the 3 days or the 5 days or the 2 days at this exposure camp, and because you did it at that camp, now you end up getting a contract. Which is funny, right? Because you did your thing for 4 years straight and it didn't help you get a deal, but then you go to an exposure camp, do your thing for 2 days, and now you got a contract. And this is how it works sometimes in the business world, ladies and gentlemen. It's not about how good you actually are. It's about how good you can prove that you are. And proving that you're good doesn't necessarily mean that you got any better. It just means doing your thing, the same thing you've been doing, but doing it for the right audience of people. That can make the whole difference in whether you get on or whether you don't get on. And if you didn't hear what I just said, or you didn't register it, please hit the rewind and listen to that again until you understand it fully. Because that right there, what I just told you, that's not even basketball right there. You could apply that to anything you do in life. It's about getting seen by the right people. It's not about being good. It's about being good in front of the right audience. So when you go to that exposure camp, who's in the crowd? There's probably some agents in that crowd who are looking for players that they want to represent. And they might see you and say, you know what, I want to represent you because I think I can help you get a contract. You go out, you can play pro. Or it might be a team there. The coach of a team might be in the crowd, or a manager from a team, or a professional scout who works overseas and has connections and is respected and trusted by pro teams that ask for their advice on players, or maybe somebody who represents the team. They might actually work for a team, like a general manager or an owner of a team might be sitting in the crowd at that exposure camp. You don't know who these people are, and they see you play for 2 days. They didn't see any of what you did for 4 years, but they see you play for 2 days. You do your thing. Now, boom, you got yourself a deal. Now, I want you to understand something, because some people might hear what I just said and they would say, well, Dre, if what I did for 4 years didn't really do nothing for me, but then I could go to an exposure camp for 3 days, do my thing and get a job there, then it doesn't even matter if I go to college, right? I don't even need to. Why don't I just skip the 4 years and just go straight to an exposure camp, skip those 4 years? I can maximize my earning potential, make money, and just go straight to playing ball overseas. Just go to an exposure camp and do my thing. Why not just do it that way, Dre? Let me tell you why you might not want to do things that way. Notice I said you might not. Because this, as I told you in previous videos, when a professional basketball team makes the decision to sign a player, it's not just one person who just said, oh, wow, you did a nice crossover, you dunked on somebody, and we're going to sign you on the spot. Here's a contract for $50 million. It's not the way that it works. They go and talk to somebody else in the organization and say, yo, I found this player, Joe Schmo. He looks like he's pretty good. He did this and this at this exposure camp. He can handle the ball. He can run the pick and roll. He's a good floor leader. He plays solid defense. He grabs a couple rebounds. You know, he doesn't get beat off the dribble. You know, he takes care of the ball, no turnovers, good outside shooter. And they give the scouting report what they saw you do, right? Now they're going to tell the 4 other people in the organization who all have to agree in order for you to get signed. They all got to be on the same page. Because remember I told you in the previous video, they might have a list of 60 players they're looking at before they decide who to sign. And they all got to be on the same page. So now somebody brought your name up. So now you're on the list. Don't mean you got a deal yet, but you're on the list. Now what do? They do what every business person does before they make a decision. They call this, some of y'all have heard this phrase, it's called due diligence. You know what that means? That means they're going to look into your background. Where are you from? What have you done? They're going to Google you, maybe do a background check on you, find out if you got any dirt on your name, any mud on your reputation. If there's anything wrong with you that they should know about, they're going to look at where'd you play in school? What'd your coaches say about you? They might call your college coach and you don't even know they called your coach. They go reach out to somebody that you played with or played against that they might have a connection with. They might know a player who played in the same conference as you and you played against that player. They're going to reach out to that player and ask them about you. Can you actually play? If they got trust in that player, whoever that player happens to be. I'm telling all this is hypothetical, but it's not all hypothetical, but the examples that I'm giving you, these are some of the things they might do, but this is something that does actually happen. They do their due diligence on you, which means one of the things they're going to look at is where did he play or where did she play at? They're going to find out if you played in college. Now, let's say you did your thing in an exposure camp for 3 days, and then they do their due diligence on you because you made the list of 60 guys, 60 prospects, and they do their due diligence and finds out you didn't even play in college. You didn't play in college because you got kicked out of high school for smoking weed 3 times, and then you tried to go to college and you failed out in the first semester, and then you had a run-in with the coach, and then you got in a domestic violence situation, and it was in the newspaper where you're from, and they're going to find all of that out when they do their due diligence, and that's the reason why you didn't play college ball. Now, you think they're going to sign you? Maybe. I mean, there's people who had trouble past who got signed to deals before in every sport, right? So I ain't telling you that you can't, but what I am telling you is if that's you, and then the guy that they also thinking about signing is the same age as you, and they look at that person's background, and let's look at this guy's background. 4 years of college ball, made the all-academic team, And you might think, what do grades got to do with playing ball? I'm gonna tell you in a moment what it has to do with it. You played 4 years. You had a great rapport with your coach. They reach out to the coach. The coach says positive things about you. Other players, other coaches in the league said good stuff about you. Your stats got better every single year, and you played all 4 years. You made all conference. Your team did good and competed every year. Now they're comparing you to that other guy. Or they're comparing you the one with the trouble, to the other guy who had no trouble, 4 years straight, squeaky clean resume. Which one are they gonna sign? Which one would you sign? Now, again, if you're that person who had the problem, you might say, well, I'll get a guy a chance. But who would you really sign? If, again, this is your money you're making a decision with. This ain't just, I'm just choosing somebody. You're making a money decision. And if you make the wrong decision with your money, you lose that money. If you didn't hear my interview with Brad Candace, understand how this works. When a team signs an import player, like an American, to play on their club, and they got to pay a fee to the league just to sign you. So just to sign an American on your team in whatever country, the team has to pay the league a fee just for the right to bring an American onto the roster. Y'all understand that? So if you end up being a bad player and they got to get rid of you, or you get off the court trouble and they got to fire you, now when they replace you with somebody else, another American, guess what they got to do? They got to pay that league. They got to pay that fee again. Every time they sign an American, they got to pay that fee. So they got to make sure they make the right decision. And their decision is not just a basketball decision. It's also a character thing. I can make a whole separate video about this, which I guess I will now that I'm talking about it. But let me go back to what I was saying about this other player. Let's say this other player was an academic All-American. What is having good grades got to do with being a good professional basketball player? What it means is just another indicator to the team that, all right, this person is disciplined. Even though they were playing basketball and they're really good, they were still going to class. They were still taking care of their business off the court. They still didn't get in any trouble, even though they were playing ball. Whereas they look at the other guy, he was smoking weed. He kept getting in trouble. He got in a fight at some bar because he was drunk, or somebody was messing with him, whatever. All right, this person has a track record. Even if it only happened once, you got a track record of getting in trouble. And they Google you, that's the first thing that comes up. All right, you tell me. Again, I'm not saying this makes you a bad person. And I'm also not saying that this will mean you can't possibly get a deal. I'm going to do a whole video on this subject. I already talked about it enough here in this video. But the whole point that I'm making here is, coming out of college, how you get a deal is the same way that anybody else would get a deal. Have an agent who's willing to represent you and get you on. Go to an exposure camp, which may lead to an agent, or you can end up doing a deal with a team, which will probably lead to an agent anyway, because an agent will help you facilitate that deal and make sure that deal is right, make sure you get the money that you're supposed to get. This is all part of the process. And any of you wondering, does college even matter if I'm good enough to play overseas? I'm gonna do a whole video on that topic. Again, I've damn near let the cat out the bag here in this video, but yes, it does matter. And I'll recap this whole thing and start from zero when I do that separate video. So how do you play ball out of college? I just told you what you got to do. You got to get seen. You got to make sure people know your name. And that resume that you had in college, yes, it matters, because the teams are going to look at your background. And this is the part that I didn't say. If you didn't play college ball, let's say, and then you was just playing in rec leagues and running around, and you're 22, let's say. So it's 4 years since high school, but you're the same age as somebody who's a senior, right? And you go to an exposure camp, do your thing. Now they're going to look you up and see that you didn't play at all in college. Now they're wondering that there might be something wrong with you. They're wondering, like, what has this guy been doing for the last 4 years? Has he been staying in shape? Is there a problem with him off the court? Do he have some kind of issues in his life? Like, what's going on with his or her life that they ain't been playing for 4 years? I mean, they obviously can play, but they ain't been playing. What they've been doing? They're going to look into that. And that might give them pause if they're comparing you to a bunch of people who did play. That matters. I'm not saying it means you can't get a job, but it does matter. They do think about that. And the player who played in college, you might think, because again, as I said, you played at some D2 or maybe a low major D1 and no overseas team saw you for 4 years straight. But then you go to that camp, do your thing for 3 days, now you got a deal. You're like, damn, that 4 years was a waste of time. No, it wasn't. It wasn't a waste of time. Because when that team looks you up and they see that you did your thing for 4 years in college, now that's a positive point on your resume. Now they're like, all right, we saw him play for 3 days and he did his thing at that camp, but he's been doing this for 4 years straight. So this guy is consistent. this player is always getting better. Look how his stats, he went from averaging 2 points to 8 points to 16 points to 22 points in his 4 years of college. He went from playing 3 minutes a game to playing 30 minutes a game as a senior. All right, this player keeps getting better. This player keeps improving. This player has been a consistent performer. This player won Player of the Week in the conference 4 times in his 4 years or her 4 years in the league. Like, this player is always getting better. This player is consistent. This player has shown steady improvement. All of those things are positive bullet points on your resume, if you understand what I'm saying. So that does matter. Don't think that college ball doesn't matter when it gets to the overseas thing. Now, some of you, depending on the level that you play at, like for me, I played at a D3 school in a conference where nobody was going overseas from my conference. Like, our centers, the center in our leagues was like 6'5". All right, so nobody from our league was going overseas. Guards or bigs or wings, nobody was going overseas. So I saw that it didn't matter what anybody did in our league because they looking at you like you playing against dudes who ain't even pro level, so who cares what you did? But the fact that you went to college at least shows that you can start something and finish it. It shows you got the discipline to go to school and stay eligible at least. If you graduated, that's another positive point. Teams actually think about this stuff. If y'all think they don't think about it, they do. If you ever go look up the articles when a player gets signed to an overseas contract and read the little write-ups that they do about those players when they get a deal, you'll notice that they'll talk about that player's life off the court because those things matter. Like, this player got a college degree, or this player has 2 kids, or this player was working a full-time job before they got their deal to play ball overseas. These things matter. They do consider these things because it tells you something about that person's character, how they handle their business in life. Because professional basketball is business. It's not just can you dribble, shoot, and pass. You got to live a life. You're 24 hours a day out in some foreign country with money in your pocket. Everybody knows who you are, and you got to navigate that. You're only working 2 hours a day. What are you doing the rest of the day? What kind of character does this person have? Is this a person we think we can trust if we put some money in their pocket and give them a car in their own house in this foreign land where everybody knows them, all the females know them? Is this person going to act like they ain't got no sense, or are they going to act like they got a mama and they got some home training? Like, these are the things that they're thinking about. And if you think this doesn't matter, I'm making this video to make sure you understand that it does. So going to college does help you for college ball, even if nobody saw you. All right, have I said that enough? Now, if you don't have my book, The Overseas Basketball Blueprint, this is a 237-page book that tells you everything you need to know about playing ball overseas so that you can travel the world, get paid, and play basketball for a living. Listen, there is no job, not one, no job you could possibly name that is better than being a professional basketball player. Not being a rapper, not being working at the UPS, it ain't nothing you could do. The Apple Store, there's nowhere you can work that is better than being a professional basketball player traveling the world on their dime. They pay for you to travel the world, and you get to play ball for a living. 2 hours a day is pretty much your job, and all you do is play basketball. You kidding me? Get this book at balloverseas.com. The book is free. All you gotta do is take care of the shipping. I've already paid for the book. You take care of the shipping. The link is down there below. There's also a link to a free downloadable guide, 46 things you need to know before you play ball overseas. Download that to your phone right now. Order this book, and we're gonna send this in the mail, and we'll send you a shipping confirmation and all that, so you know the book is coming. Balloverseas.com. The other one is balloverseas.com/46. And what else did I want to tell you? Listen, ain't no better job in the world than this. I came from a D3 that I walked onto in college, didn't have any connections or any information to play ball overseas. I figured it out. I wrote this book so that you don't have to go through the problems that I went through and the trials and tribulations and all the investments that I had to make and mistakes. Some of them were good, some of them were bad. I'm going to help you not have to make any of those mistakes, all right? Hove did that, so hopefully you don't have to go through that. Balloverseas.com, get this book. And any questions, comments, of course, leave them in the comment section. Y'all know I'll read the comments. I'll respond to your comment. I got a bunch more content coming about overseas ball, so trust me, any questions I have not answered, go ahead and post it. Or there's a bunch of questions that you don't even know you have that I'm going to answer before you even think about it. It's coming, so stay tuned and work on your game. Dre all day.